Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to walk through one of the most powerful and moving moments in history, the final days of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the incredible legacy he built to last forever.
So let's just dive right in. This verse from the Quran gets to a fundamental truth that the Prophet always taught his followers. It's about his own humanity. The sources make it really clear. Yes, he was a messenger of God, but he was also a man who would face death, just like everyone else. And this wasn't some secret. It was a core lesson, preparing them from the very beginning. You see, he knew his time was coming to an end. So through little hints and some very clear statements, he started to prepare everybody. The whole point was to make sure their faith was tied to the eternal message and to God, not to him, the man. It was honestly a masterclass in how to build something that lasts. So how did he do it? Well, in his last few weeks, his actions weren't really about winding things down. No, they were all about setting up the future, making absolutely sure that the community he'd built would not just survive without him, but actually thrive. This timeline is just fascinating when you look at it. He gets back from the huge, monumental farewell pilgrimage, and what does he do? He immediately starts planning a major military mission. Even as he's starting to get sick, his mind is still on the long-term future and security of his people. And get this, for this really important mission, who does he pick to lead? An 18-year-old, Usama ibn Zayd. Now, you can imagine some of the older, senior companions had questions, but the Prophet stood by his choice, defending him completely. It was such a powerful and forward-thinking move, basically saying, hey, leadership is about your ability, not your age or your status. Then, as he got sicker and his physical strength started to fade, so much so that he couldn't even make it to the mosque, he made another really deliberate and important choice. He told his closest companion, Abu Bakr, to lead the prayers. And this wasn't just a practical thing. It was a clear signal to the entire community about where the spiritual leadership would lie when he was gone. Okay, so what happens next? On a Monday morning, it might just be the most powerful and revealing moment from his final days. It perfectly captures everything his life's work was about. Just try to picture this scene. The mosque is full. The community is standing in perfect, quiet rows for the dawn prayer. Abu Bakr is up at the front, leading them. It's a moment of pure unity and devotion to God. And then, all of a sudden, the curtain to his room, which opened right into the mosque, gets pulled back. And there he is. The sources say his face was just shining, and he didn't say a word. He just looked out at them and smiled, a smile of total joy and satisfaction. And you have to understand why he was smiling. In that single moment, he saw it all. He saw the result of his entire life's mission, a community praying together, connected directly to God, running perfectly without him there to lead them. He had done it. The mission was complete. You see, that amazing scene was the living proof that his community got it. They understood this core teaching from the Quran, that the faith is not about one person. He had built something that could stand on its own. The message was always going to outlive the messenger. After he saw that, a real sense of peace seemed to settle over him. His final job was done, and the hours that followed were just filled with this quiet dignity, patience, and remembrance of God. The accounts we have from his wife, Aisha, give us these incredible human details. Even at the very end, there's this focus on cleanliness, on purification. He sees a miswak, a toothstick, and she softens it for him so he can use it. He cleans his teeth so carefully. It's just this small final act of preparing to meet his Lord. And he was honest about how hard it was. He didn't hide the pain. As he wiped his face with some water, he acknowledged the struggle, the physical trial of death. And that right there was one last lesson for everyone. Even the best of us face struggles, but facing them with patience, that's where the strength is. His focus was completely on what came next. He kept repeating these simple words, choosing the companionship of God over everything in this world. And he passed away on that same Monday, the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, in the 11th year after the migration to Medina. For the city of Medina, for the entire community of believers, the news was just earth-shattering. It was like the light of their entire world had just gone out. He was 63 years old, and you think about it, in just a little over 2 decades, he had completely transformed a society and laid the foundation for a global civilization. For the people he left behind, it was, as the sources say, the greatest trial and the most sorrowful day they had ever known. And I don't think anyone captured that feeling better than his companion, Anas. He said that when the Prophet first came to Medina, the whole city lit up. But on the day he died, everything just went dark. It's such a simple but powerful way to describe what they lost. But, the story doesn't end in darkness. It can't. Because the legacy he built wasn't about worldly things. It was a legacy of light, of guidance that would endure. I mean, just look at what he left behind in terms of worldly possessions. This is the leader of a new civilization, respected by kings. And his inheritance, a mule, his weapons, and some land he'd already given away to charity. He didn't leave any gold or silver. In fact, his own shield was being held by a merchant as collateral for some barley he'd bought. This right here is such a profound insight. A close companion, Ayman, was crying after he passed. And when people asked her why, she said, "I'm not crying because he died. I knew he would die." She was crying because the direct connection to heaven, the divine revelation, had stopped. A whole era of human history had just ended.
And that's the final piece of the puzzle. The revelation was complete. The message was perfected. The light wasn't coming to them anymore. Now it had to shine from them. That last satisfied look he gave them from behind the curtain, that was him confirming that they were ready to carry that light.
And that leaves us with this question, doesn't it? The final days of the Prophet Muhammad give us this incredible, timeless blueprint for leadership, for building community, and for creating a legacy that isn't about one person, but about permanent truths. A legacy truly built to last forever.